Hello everyone, I've been a painting contractor for 25 years and the goal of this channel is to help make painting at home simple. For all of you do-it-yourselfers out there looking for professional results and wanting to save some money. So thanks for watching and please like and subscribe. We want to help as many people as we can. Thanks again. All right, hello everyone. Today what we're going to do is we're going to show you the steps we take to paint an accent wall in a room in a condo, and we have all of the supplies and materials we're going to need today for this, and we're going to walk you through the prep part of getting this wall right here ready to be covered and masked. We've already got our drop cloths down and we're going to use plastic. We're going to cover up that TV. We have a masker right here, and on the masker we have a roll of tape and paper that we're going to use to cover the baseboards and anything we need to cover. And then in addition to that, we've got the gallon of paint. Today we're using Benjamin Moore Ben Interior. It's a flat finish. 5-in-1 tool, which is really important. You're gonna want this to open up your paint can with. And it's also really nice because we can use the end of it to take the plates off of the walls so we don't get any paint on those. We're going to be using our Purdy 2.5-inch paintbrush. It's a blue bristle brush and it's got a stiff edge on it, which is good for cutting in. And we've got a 9-inch paint pan, a 9-inch liner, a roller frame, and we're going to use a Wooster Pro Do Z cover. And we're using the 3/4-inch nap today. And that's going to give us a good amount of paint to use. We've got spackle and various knives for any imperfections to fix the walls. We're using our 3M high strength small hole repair product that you can buy. It has primer mixed in it. And then we've got a dust brush and we've got a tack rag, which we're going to use to wipe along the baseboards so our tape is good and will stick fine. So we'll check back in a minute as we get ready to go. Okay, we're checking back in. We're just simply going to take our 5-in-1 now and we're going to remove all of the plates on the outlets. We can just unscrew like this and we'll remove all the plates because we want to paint behind here. And we're going to put tape on the outlets and on the switches for protection. And then we're going to get our baseboards covered and we'll be ready to go. Go ahead right here and show you. We have our tape on the masker and we're just slowly pulling it off, and we're going to go like this. And when we tape along this line, we're going to tape it so we can see the gap. We want to put our paintbrush in there, and I'll show you an example of what not to do. Okay, we don't want to put the tape all the way to the wall like this. We want it to have a space so we can put our brush and paint far down in there when we come around and cut that in. If you go like this, when you pull the tape, you're going to see a white line all the way down. So that's how we want to make sure we do this. So we'll go ahead and we will mask this, cover the outlets, and we'll check back in a second. All right, here we go. Getting ready to have some fun. We're checking back in. We are going to open up our gallon of paint and we're going to stir it. And then we're going to strain our paint. And if you have another person with you, the way to do this is have somebody hold the strainer over the pan while the other person pours out of the gallon, leaving yourself about that much left in the gallon to use as your cut pot to cut the room or the wall in with. But I want to show you today how I do it when I'm by myself, in case you find yourself in this situation. I have a wet rag on hand and I have a dry rag on hand. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up our paint with our 5-in-1. And then we're going to set the lid off to the side, okay? and we're going to give it a stir. And we just want to kind of go in, and it's already been shaken at the paint store, but if you've had it sitting for a few days or a week, it's always good to just stir your paint. And sometimes if a paint sits too long on a shelf, it can get a little lumpy. I've had that many times, so we want to strain it. So I'll just take my brush here, and I'm just going to hold the stick over and wipe it, and then get the paint off on the side like this. Get the stick clean, and I'll set that off to the side. Okay, now what I use on job sites is a plastic baggie, just a sandwich bag that I can take my brush, and I don't want the bristles to dry out, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here for now and set it off to the side. I'm going to put the strainer over the top of this gallon like this, and I hold on like that, and I pour it out like this, just like that. Okay, and then I can slowly take the strainer and hold it like that, set this off to the side. All right, and then I'll put the strainer in the pot like that. I've got a bunch of paint in the strainer, and I'll just go like this, and I'll get all the rest of the paint out. And then I can set that off to the side on my plastic. And then when I open up this lid again, I have my cut pot. Take my brush out. I can clean my hands if I need to. And I'll just kind of go around and clean the inside rim of the paint. And this is the pot that I'm going to use. I'll get it clean right there, and I'll hold it like this, and I'll use this as my paint pot. And I've got my paintbrush, so when I go to cut in, I dip it in here, and I just tap it on the side, and I don't have any paint dripping, and I'm ready to go. So we're gonna get that going, set that off to the side, and I want to show you what we do with the roller. Now, we're using a 3/4 inch roller. Depending on the brand you use, mostly you can use 1/2 inch rollers, but we use a thicker one because this particular roller, it gives us a really nice smooth finish, and it doesn't shed, and we want to get our roller started before we get to painting. So I'm just going to go like this, and notice I'm not pushing it all the way in, and I'm not loading it up with a ton of paint. I'm just pushing with a little pressure, and I'm trying to get the roller started. I want to get some paint started on there, so when I put it on the wall, it's not really dry. We want to get it going, and the more you use the roller, the more paint will become saturated onto it. So we just really get it going, and then when we're happy with where we got it, we'll set it back. We're going to use the Worcester Sherlock rolling pole, and you'll notice there's no circles on the top to twist and tighten. It's got a locking mechanism, so you can put it right into this Worcester roller handle and lock it into place. And now you don't have to worry about it coming off, and I can adjust it to whatever size I want, and we'll get to that in a minute. Whenever I'm not using it, I just set it off to the side. So okay, now let's get into the cutting in. Let's talk about the wall. Here we've got our wall all prepared. It's all covered. We're going to paint this wall, and you'll notice the walls in the rest of the room are a different color. We want to leave it that way. So what we did is we took our frog tape, our 1-inch frog tape, and we did a border all the way down with the tape. And we did a nice straight line so we could make sure that when we pull the tape off, we're going to see a nice straight line from top to bottom with the new color meeting the existing color. Now there's one more thing we do, and I wanted to show you this. In this situation, we're going to take our masker. Because we want to get close with the pole, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and tape this all the way up. And we're going to give ourselves extra protection to make sure when we're rolling we don't get any splatter on the wall we're against. Now let's take you down to this spot over here and show you. We have a situation where this color comes onto an outside wall, and you can clearly see this is the cream, the white that's going to stay. When we get to this point, we'll show you in a minute, we're going to cut with our brush straight down this edge. We're not going to roll it, and then we're going to have a wet rag and we're going to clean as we go. Okay, and we'll get into that. But then one more example I want to show you is, if you're interested, we took all of our plates off. We have a solid phone jack on this particular wall. If you do want to paint your plates, we take our 150 grit sandpaper and we scuff it up a little bit, and then we'll take a rag and we'll wipe it off so the paint sticks. We're going to paint this plate. We're gonna paint it, and we're gonna make it blend into the wall. So the only other thing would be, when it comes to your masking and getting a wall ready, make sure you've covered all of these steps before you start painting to make it simpler. So we'll check back in a second. Okay, we're checking back in. We're just simply going to take our 5-in-1 now, and we're going to remove all of the plates on the outlets. We can just unscrew like this, and we'll remove all the plates because we want to paint behind here. And we're going to put tape on the outlets and on the switches for protection. And then we're going to get our baseboards covered, and we'll be ready to go. Just like that. Okay, take the screws out. Sometimes if this was on here because somebody else had painted it before, sometimes these will stick. Try to just slowly pull the plates off when you do that. And then we're going to take our tape, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of tape as we go, protecting the outlets so we can have no paint splatter on anything. We want everything protected, and that's how we're going to do that. Now here we have a heat control that is for the baseboard heat, and we're going to take our green 1-inch frog tape. This is the best tape because the edge of the tape has a paint block on it, and it leaves a nice crisp clean line. So when we pull this off, there'll be a nice line. There won't be any paint that will have leaked through. 1-inch green frog tape. All right, and then like that. We want to make sure every part of this is protected. Okay, and we're going to go on down the wall here, finishing our masking and our cover up, just like this. And I'll show you an example of using the masker on our baseboard heat. Okay, so again, get this off right here. And then we're going to go ahead right here and show you, we have our tape on the masker, and we're just slowly pulling it off, and we're going to go like this. And when we tape along this line, we're going to tape it so we can see the gap. We want to put our paintbrush in there, and I'll show you an example of what not to do. Okay, we don't want to put the tape all the way to the wall like this. We want it to have a space so we can put our brush and paint far down in there when we come around and cut that in. If you go like this, when you pull the tape, you're going to see a white line all the way down. So that's how we want to make sure we do this. So we'll go ahead and we will mask this, cover the outlets, and we'll check back in a second. Okay, here we go. We're checking back in. We're going to start painting. I'm going to start at the top and cut my line all the way down, bring the corner down, then come back to this wall, and we'll bring this down and clean this as we go. Then we'll cut around all of the outlets and make sure we have everything ready so we can start rolling. And basically that's where we're at, so let's get started. I like to start with my cut line a little bit further away from the ceiling and then work into it. Okay? And then I'll just get close over here until I come down to bring this down. I'm just getting close. But what I want to do is start a little bit away from the ceiling with my nice brush, and then I'll come a little bit higher and I'll try to cut as clear and clean as I can I like to get a little bit further down before I come back and I fill in the bottom with a flat brush back and forth like this. Okay, I'll go back and forth, making sure I got a nice soft covered line. And what's good about this is we are going to be putting 2 coats on, so I get really close on the first cut line, and when I come back to do the second coat, I tighten it up. I tighten it up. Okay. Back and forth, filling in the gap. We want to end up with about 3 or 4 inches for our roller to roll up into. Okay, we're going to bring the brush down this corner. Again, we want to make sure that we really get the brush into that tape line and make our brush lines nice and soft and even up and down. We want to make sure we get our cut lines have enough paint on them. Okay. And we just kind of work it into the, I like to always just push kind of like this into the corner and then come back with the flat part of the brush nice and smooth, making a nice smooth line. We don't want to end up with something where you have a hard line. If you can zoom in and see what that looks like, we don't want it to look like this where it's real hard. We want it to be smooth, because if that dries, it's not going to look good. We want to really make sure we don't see our hard brush lines. And working like this out of a cut pot is perfect, because as you can see, I can just lightly tap it on the sides. I don't have paint dripping down, and it's an easy way for you to cut in. Okay. This is a little bit difficult, so we're just going to kind of manipulate the brush into this spot right here, and the roller has enough clearance to get in there. So we know that what we don't get with the brush, we can get into that corner, and we know the roller will pick it up here in a minute. Nice and smooth. Okay. Now there's a gap like we explained before, so I kind of start off to the side and then I angle the brush down into that gap, and I try to turn the brush flat, but what I want to do is I want to get as far down there as possible, so when I pull the tape I don't see any white wall left over. And then we'll go like this and we'll cut and paint around the outlets. Okay, nice. This. Okay, follow this all the way down. we go. We'll do small sections at a time, and we'll bring the wall all the way down. Okay? Now I always start with my brush on this side. I don't want to go like this straight on because the brush will flap over onto this side. So I'm going to take my brush and keep it angled off to the side here and just real slowly work up to that edge. Just real slowly. I'm able to feel the edge with the brush while I have it angled like this. I'll go a little bit and then I'll make a cut line, making sure to extend it out 3 or 4 inches. Then I'll take my rag and I'll look over on the side, and if I need to clean anything, I will. And then this spot, from where I can see, so far so good. So now we're going to take it a little further, and what's really good is after we do the first coat, we're going to let this wall dry up. And we're going to come back in a couple of hours and we're going to put a second coat on it. And before we do the second coat, we're going to take a look at our cut lines, and we're going to tighten up the cut line by the ceiling, and then we're going to tighten up this cut line too. If we feel like we need to paint a little bit more on this side, we will. And again, I'm just going to check over. So far so good. All right. And we'll just keep this going, keeping it angled real slow and soft. You can kind of just see and feel which side you're on. Okay. All right. So far so good. A little bit of paint on there. Always start away from it and then bring it in. You don't want to have a lot of paint as you work to the edge because it'll drip over to the other side. And it's just slow and steady, up and down, and we're almost there. Okay, tighten that up, right in there. All right, sometimes you get down here, you got to kind of come from the other way and just a little bit at a time. Always work my way into the corner, the outer edge. Okay. All right. And then we'll take a peek and see if we got to clean anything as we went down. And if you do, you just take the rag and you'll just wipe it along the wall, and it'll clean it off as you go while it's wet. All right, we're going to check back in a minute as we get ready to roll this thing. We're getting ready to roll our wall. We're going to start from left to right. We cut the whole wall in, and now we're going to roll it. If you're painting a whole room, we want you to do one wall at a time. Cut it in and then roll it. We want the paint to dry together. Our cut lines and our roller lines, we want them to be wet together and dry together to give you a more even finish. Okay, so we're going to start. Follow me down the wall. We're going to get it first coated. And what we want to also bring up is that we adjusted the temperature in this condo. We want the room to not be really hot. Too much heat, the paint will dry too fast and you'll end up with a really blotchy, uneven finish. So we want to make sure we keep it a little cooler. And we're going to go ahead now and get started. So we'll pick this back up where we left it, click our pole into place, I'm adjusting the pull to my height to where I want it. When I bring this roller up out of the pan, I always do a twist. We want to make sure we're not dripping heavy volumes of paint. We don't need that. And we're going to get the roller started on this corner. I'm going to start away from my cut line by a couple of inches, and I'm going to stay short of the ceiling. And I can see that I need to readjust my pull, so I can just do that while I'm painting. Okay, we're going to go just a little bit. Remember, the paint roller is still getting saturated with paint. We still have to get a lot on it. So I'll work it back and forth, then I'll come back over to the corner, and I'll go a little bit closer. And I'll go a little closer to the ceiling, and then I bring it down, and I'll stop right here, pick it up, go up, and I'm always going to overlap my previous line, okay? I'm always going to overlap. And then on the ends, I always like to put a little stipple so it all matches in between wherever I'm cutting. Just like that. Now I'm going to dip it again, and I'm going to work the bottom. Again, just a little bit at a time. And then back over, twist to the wall. And I'll start again, away from the corner. And I always stay short of wherever I'm rolling into, because if you go over with too much paint, you're going to get sags and drips right here. Okay, so we'll just go right up to this part and then come back and slowly work to the corner. Then I can bring it all the way down if I want to my paper, and I can bring it all the way down. Okay, and now same thing again. We're just going to repeat this process. A little dip, not too much, but not too little. Twist. And we're going to join right back up to where we were before. Again, I'm going to stay short of the ceiling line because I don't want a big sag or a drip up there. I only go a little distance. I want to make sure I'm getting the right amount of paint and that it's not too thin. Okay? Then I'm going to work my way back. Just like this, up and down. I'm going to overlap where I started, the last section. See, I'm coming right back into it, and I'm not applying a lot of pressure. I don't want to leave hard lines on the wall, okay? I do not want to leave hard lines on the wall. So now I'm going to come down below, and I'm starting to get to where I can feel the roller has enough paint, and I can do a full top to bottom. Touch the bottom, get close to the top, and then work my way left into the last section, overlapping. Okay, I got enough paint on there to come up here and do that. All right. Always stopping short. And then working back. Nice and smooth, nice and light. We'll get this wall finished now. Okay, when we get to an outside wall, and we're joining up against another wall in a corner like this, we want to ease into the corner. We don't want to have a lot of paint, so we always work to the left And then we turn our roller this way so the frame is away from the wall. We don't want to scrape the other wall. So we just bring our roller close. We have that paper and tape there to protect it. And we just go up and down, nice and close to that other wall. Now, if you didn't have tape on the wall, and if you were painting the whole room, then you just want to go as close as possible until you get it covered. All right, we have our first coat done. We, in this situation, are going to let this dry. We always let our walls dry for several hours, if not longer, in between coats. And we're gonna come back and put a second coat on everything. We're gonna look over the walls for any imperfections we might have missed. We have other videos on prepping walls and spackling. This was just about painting, so please check those out. We'll open up some windows and we'll get some ventilation in here as well. So we'll check back in a little while. Okay, we finished the first coat. We want to wrap up our paint because it's going to be a few hours. We don't want anything to dry out. So what we do is we just go ahead and we dip the paint roller, get paint on it, and then you can kind of clip it on the edge of the pan. And then we have our baggie. We're going to take our paintbrush, make sure there's some paint on it, and then slide it right in there and twist this over. That way nothing is going to dry out. We'll put the lid back on our paint can. I have already a piece of plastic cut. We're going to cover the setup. Now, if you don't have plastic in this situation, you can use a garbage bag. So we'll get this open like this, right across the top. I always like to kind of wrap it up like a present, just like this. I always really make sure it's kind of tight, but not sagging. I got a nice tight film, and that's okay to touch it to there, and we got it wrapped up under there. When we come back in a few hours, it's going to be nice and wet. We'll check back in. Okay, checking back in. We've let the wall dry for a few hours, and it's all ready to go. We're going to put a second coat on it. We're going to follow the same steps we did in the first coat. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to second coat it, and then we'll check back in once it's all done and we want to pull tape when we have a finished product. Okay, we're going to let the walls dry really well before we pull tape. Probably sometimes if it's in the afternoon, I'll leave the tape on overnight to get a nice dry clean line. Otherwise, several to many hours is good. So we'll check back in later. All right, checking back in. We just finished the second coat on the wall. It's all wet. And I wanted to show you what I like to do at the end before I put the roller back in the pan. We're all done. We no longer need to use this anymore. And we've got videos on how to clean rollers, how to clean brushes, how to prep walls, and everything else. So I like to take the bottom of the handle here of the rolling pole, and it's more solid in this spot. And I like to take this cover and I'll just knock it off right into the plastic that I had set aside over here. So just a couple taps, and then we'll take and we'll clean our roller in the sink, but that gets that off. And then we're able to take our pan and we're able to just put it on a corner, whatever's left in here. We're going to pour it right back into the can, just like that. Set the metal on the side, and then we can use our brush like this to get all the rest of the paint into the gallon. Okay, this is the best way to do it, and we can dry the roller pan if we want, and we can use it again in the future. If we get it real cleaned out, it'll dry and we might use it for a primer or something else. That way we can save it. So that's how we're going to do that. And then we'll check back in. All right, here we are, the finished product. The room is dry, the walls have dried for hours, and we're pulling all of the tape. And the key to doing this is we want to make sure when we pull the tape, anywhere we're pulling it, that we go real slow and we pull away on an angle. So this is the reason why we use this particular type of tape, frog tape, when we're using it to paint an accent wall, especially because when we pull this all the way down, we'll end up with a nice clean line, and that's what we want to have. Hello everyone, Final product, this is it. We've finished the accent wall. We're really happy with the results. These are the steps that you can take in your own home to do your own project from start to finish. So thanks a lot for watching. Please like and subscribe. We'll have more videos.